Leah Blythe is a South Australian Liberal senator and joins you. Leah Blythe, welcome.
Good morning, Rory, Sonya and Jules, and good morning to your listeners.
Senator, what is your position on net zero?
My position on net zero, and I've been consistent on this since coming into the parliament, I think Labor's reckless pursuit of net zero at any cost is costing Australians. And on that basis, it's just not something that I think is in our national interest.
Is that the majority opinion within your party, according to the conversations you're having?
Look, I think there are, and as the media has speculated, there are a wide range of views in our party room. And, you know, I respect our leader for allowing us the time and space to be able to debate such an important policy position like this, and I've certainly had some really respectful conversations with colleagues who agree and some who disagree, and that's the beauty of the Liberal Party, is we're allowed to do that.
Former leaders have committed to net zero. I mean, Malcolm Turnbull, Scott Morrison amongst them. Are you saying that they were wrong?
I am happy to be on the record to say that hindsight is a really powerful thing, and I think when we look at what the pursuit of net zero is costing Australians, we look at energy prices being more expensive, we're looking at an economy that's less productive, we're doing greater harms to our environment and farmland. So I think, you know, I have the ability to have some hindsight, and we're a little way down the track on net zero now, and it's just not adding up to be in our national interest.
Leah Blythe, when it comes to many people are talking about the future of the coalition between the Liberals and the Nationals. Is there any future without backing net zero by 2050? Because the Nationals have already come out and officially said that's their policy on this.
Look, I think we go through different periods where we will need to compromise. And I think as a Liberal Party, we're going to have to reach a position going through our own internal processes to get there. But I think what the Liberal Party in general does is we do get to positions that are in the best interests of the Australian people. And certainly when we're looking at the evidence of what Labor's net zero is costing the Australian people, you know, looking at energy prices up by, 23.6%. We're looking at, rebates that are having to prop up a renewable system that is essentially going through and decimating farmland, pristine forests. You know, they're looking at putting wind turbines offshore in our beautiful marine environment. I think once you start putting all of that together, it is a very, very difficult thing to still stick behind Labor's agenda of net zero.
Leah Blythe, though, are you concerned this might make a pathway back to government for your party and the coalition more broadly difficult if you do move away from net zero as is being suggested?
I don't accept that premise, Rory. I think we have been most electorally successful when we have got behind policy positions that are in the best interests of the Australian people. And I don't think it is in the best interests of the Australian people to be spending $1.33 trillion on wind turbines and solar panels and not having secure, reliable energy. We've lost 7,000 jobs already in heavy industry because of this policy, and we've got another 73,000 jobs in heavy industry at risk. That is just impoverishing the Australian economy. And for what gain? When we think as a nation, we're 1% of global emissions. We're happy to send our gas and coal offshore, and it's being used by other nations who are making products and sending it back to us.
Leah,
and we're getting poorer.
Sorry to interrupt, but when you say Australian people, you're not talking for younger Australians, are you, though? I mean, your research must be showing you that this policy is not popular with young Australians, many of whom, just by the housing crisis, aren't paying power bills themselves. Are you willing to sacrifice younger voters to pursue this policy?
I disagree with that as well, Jules. Younger people now, the biggest issue for them is cost of living. And if we cannot get inflation and our energy policy settings right, then young people are never going to be able to buy a house. But the worst thing is younger people are going to have wind turbines off of their beautiful, pristine marine environments. There will be no farming, no fresh food, because that will be covered with solar panels.
So, Leah Blythe, let's walk it back then to, about you've made your comments around net zero. How do you address the climate challenge that is before not just Australia, but the globe?
And I think Australia has to do its part. But at the moment, we are doing well above what our part is, and we are a very, very small contributor. So when I said, we are still sending our coal and our gas, we're a very resource-rich nation. They are still being used and attributing to global emissions.
So what can your party do? What position can you put forward as an alternate government to address the climate challenge?
I think that Australia will make things much more cleanly than other nations that we are essentially sending offshore to then make products and send them back to us. So I think that's what Australia
is that a
can
return
do.
to coal, Leah Blythe? Because that's not coal-fired generation, because that's not going to bring down power prices alone, is it?
Actually, Sonya, it would, but is that the right thing for us to be responsible? I think we've got to have a plan for the future, and nuclear is certainly one of those things. It's a very clean source of energy, and so nuclear has to be part of the mix. But I think we've got to do this from a technology-driven space. At the moment, we've got legislated requirements that Labor is placing onto all Australians, and the costs of that per Australian range from, depending on the research that you look at, $50,000 to $250,000 per Australian. I think that if we are technology driven, we will be able to get there. We can do things cleaner. We can do our part in terms of global emissions and preserve our pristine environment at the same time.
Let's get back to the politics of this. I mean, obviously, you'll put that case before the electorate if that's your policy. But Anne Ruston, we invited her on the show today. She was unavailable to join us. She seems to be passionately supporting net zero along with other moderates. What do you say to her? Do you believe you can coexist with the moderate element of your party? And do you support Susan Lee's leadership?
Okay, so I'll grab that. To the first part, as I said, there are colleagues who have varying views on this, and I think I respect our leader for allowing us the space to be able to have these debates. And I think that the coalition or the Liberal Party is most powerful when we do have these debates and we can reach compromises, because usually those positions are in the best interests of the Australian people who we are seeking to serve. In terms of whether I support the leader, I support Susan Lee as our leader. I sit in shadow ministry, and it is a long-held convention that to sit in shadow ministry, you support the leadership.
Would you vote for her if there was a spill?
There is no spill on the table, and certainly we run a secret ballot in the party room, and I certainly wouldn't be breaking those confidences.
If the Liberal Party votes to abandon net zero, is nuclear officially on the table then?
I think everything should be on the table, and my personal view is that we should be taking a technology approach to this, because... So
how did you read the election result, given that nuclear was such a high-profile part of that?
And I guess you're inferring that the electorate voted against nuclear based on the election results? Is that...
Well, I think a lot of people would infer that, yes.
And I guess I look at a whole range of different data. I think there were a lot of issues for us at the last federal election. I don't believe that nuclear was a deal breaker on its own. And I think the Australian people, when you speak to them about, cheap, reliable power, nuclear certainly comes up as something that they're willing to talk about. We are the only OECD nation without nuclear power. You can't say that everyone in the world's got it wrong and we're the only ones that have got it right.
Finally, Leah, do you think that the electorate wants to see a consistent policy on climate from your party? Because it's bounced around a lot, from John Howard to Tony Abbott to Scott Morrison to Malcolm Turnbull. Now we're having the debate again. Do you think you need to pick and stick?
I think that is, again, and I will go to hindsight on some of what other leaders have done in the past. It's very easy. We all want to do our part for our natural environment, and I think no one denies that climate change is real. So for me, yes, I would like to see us be consistent in applying our values to our policies, and then sharing that with the Australian people and letting them decide at the ballot box.
Leah Blythe, thank you.
Authorised by Leah Blythe, Liberal Party, Hilton SA.